Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka your friendly neighborhood spoiler man, and this video I'm going to be breaking down some of the plot leaks I've heard in regards to Spider-Man 3. After we leaked the Jedi episode of The Mandalorian, I promised not to do full breakdowns on stuff, but I did say that I would talk about certain things I'd heard. Now, but there's a lot to discuss, and throughout this video we're going to be talking about the apparent plot twist in the film, the new villain costumes, and other story details. There will be heavy spoilers here, so if you don't want anything potentially ruined, then I'll recommend you wall crawl your way out of here. Make sure you smash that thumbs up button like you'd smash Aunt May, the hot one, or the old one if that's your thing, and subscribe to the channel for videos like this every day. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this, you sucker. Now let's get into the video. Okay, so I don't think it's a secret at this point that both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield will be playing alternate versions of Peter Parker in the upcoming Spider-Man movie. They've clearly brought back Doc Ock and Electro for a reason, and it would be weird to have them return and not both Tobey and Andrew. I got in a lot of trouble for pooping on the Amazing Spider-Man 2 in my last video, but let's be real, no one was partying like it's their birthday to have Electro back without there being a good reason, which these Peter Parkers are here for. I love you by the way, Jamie. Now, there's also rumours that Willem Dafoe has signed on alongside Thomas Hayden Church, aka the Sandman. So the pieces are all falling into place, and Paramount even dropped a tweet the other day teasing at Tobey and Andrew's return. So it's pretty safe to say that it's definitely happening, and it's going to make Spider-Man 3 one of the biggest movies of all time. Now, before we get into the big plot twist in the film, we have to discuss how WandaVision, Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange are all connected in some way. After the Disney Investor Day event, it was said that these three would sort of be a trilogy that played into each other, much in the same way that Civil War tied in with Black Panther and Spider-Man Homecoming. Sam Raimi is directing Doctor Strange 2, and I'm sure you're well aware that he was behind the original Spider-Man trilogy, but just in case you aren't, he basically created the universe and was a huge get for Marvel Studios. If you checked out mine and Den of the Nerds' big spoiler stream at the weekend, then you'll know that Josh brought up that Raimi was pivotal in getting Alfred Molina to return, and that he's been a key part in the negotiations to get people back. With Raimi directing Doctor Strange 2, and this tying into Spider-Man 3, it does add weight to these three properties being linked, and this sort of trilogy will centre highly around alternate dimensions and realities. Now, according to what I've heard, WandaVision will centre around Scarlet Witch creating a pocket dimension in which she can live out her dream life with Vision. The character grew up watching old reruns of US sitcoms and viewed this as the ideal way to be, so this is why the show carries this sort of weird aesthetic. The plot leaks say that things go to hell in this dimension, and it causes issues across the multiverse. Now, whilst this is going on, Peter is also on the run after the events of Far From Home, and from what I've heard, he actually goes to Strange for help. The pair of course met in Infinity War, and Strange obviously knows that he would never murder someone just to command a drone fleet. Because he knows him beyond just using their made up names, he sees him as a good kid and decides that he will do what he can to clear his name. Thus, Strange casts a spell to make the entire world forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. If you're a fan of Marvel Comics, then you'll know that this plot point appeared in one moment in time, and it saw the Sorcerer erasing the knowledge from everyone's memory so that Peter's life could return to some form of normality. This caused issues down the line, and apparently this plot motif will be carried across to the film. If you cast your mind back to Doctor Strange, you'll remember that Mordo warned him about the dangers of dabbling in magic. When first using the Time Stone, the character was furious that Strange was meddling with things he didn't understand, and that in doing so he could create time loops, alternate realities, and so on. It was also revealed that the Ancient One had been pulling from the Dark Dimension in order to prolong her life, and there's very much been this idea already planted that with magic often comes a cost. This is the same case for the movie, and in doing so, Strange will cause a tear in the fabric of reality that basically opens up the entire multiverse. From what I've heard, that's Strange's role in the movie, and we already know that he's been officially confirmed as appearing in the film. It also sets up the events for his own solo sequel in the Multiverse of Madness, and the big focus for the next phase, which will be alternate dimensions. The first three phases of the MCU pretty much all led to Endgame, which was when the Avengers opened up several alternate realities, and we saw further nods to the multiverse in Far From Home with the arrival of Mysterio. Though he wasn't actually from an alternate dimension, it actually set up several things in place which hint towards the next phase, and whereas the first 3 phases centered around the prime timeline versions of the character, the future phases will focus on alternate ones. So that's going to be a big direction for things going forward, and this aesthetic will of course appear in the alternate version of Vision in WandaVision, Loki, which will have several versions of the God of Mischief, Spider-Man 3, which gonna have everyone in it, and Doctor Strange 2, which will also contain alternate versions of the character. According to my source, Marvel are trying to bring across established versions of characters from different properties, and we may even be seeing some of the X-Men down the line that we already know from the Fox films. I'll let you know more when I find out, but that's just what I've heard in the meantime. And that kind of takes us to the villains of Spider-Man 3, and I have to make it clear that the ones appearing in the movie will not be the versions that we've already seen before. Doc Ock of course died, as did Electro, and thus these will be different versions of the character, and because of that they'll come with alternate looks. Jamie Foxx already teased in a now deleted Instagram post that Electro will not be blue, and this will follow suit with the suits of the different characters. Pretty crap pun. Now from what I've heard, they're actually trying to create a Green Goblin look that will resemble the comic book version. If you cast your mind back to the behind the scenes stuff on the first Spider-Man movie, you may remember that the original Green Goblin costume looked a lot more in line with the source material, and Marvel are trying to go that route with Dafoe's appearance in the film. So in regards to the villains, we will be getting their quote-unquote classic costumes, and this will allow versions of them to exist in the MCU without saying that the previous films they've starred in don't count anymore. Now going forward, what I've heard is that Sony and Marvel Studios have actually agreed that when this is all over, the former will be able to use Spider-Man in their own properties, which will be unconnected from the MCU. By that I mean they can have a version of Andrew Garfield off doing his own thing in a separate continuity, whilst Tom Holland operates in the main timeline. This is why in the Morbius trailer we saw a poster of the Raimi Spider-Man with murderer written over it, and though they'll all be disconnected, if they want to bring them back together, they can through the multiverse. Now that's all the rumours and plot leaks I've heard, and hopefully we get some more info over the next coming weeks which clear everything up. Spider-Man 3 is going to be Peter Parker's Endgame level event, and the plan is to have this show that fans won't have to wait another 10 years before we get films of that size. I would of course love to hear your thoughts on it, and don't forget that on the 30th of December we're giving away 3 copies of the Lord of the Rings 4K box set to our subscribers. All you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the leaks. The links to our socials are in the description, and you can support the channel by clicking the join button, and as a thank you, you get videos like this early. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of all the other rumours we've heard, which are going to be linked at the end. We discussed the Snyder Cut, Spider-Man 3 and a lot more, so it's definitely worth checking out if you're bored at home with nothing to do. Anyway, with that out of the way, thank you for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.